Hey, we're so excited that you guys are back for the after show, and I've got some special guests with me. Pastor Joe will be back next week, but I'm really excited to be able to host our North Raleigh children's pastor, Dejan Campbell, and we're also hosting Pastor Anthony Prince, our family ministries pastor of the Global New Hope movement. So we're excited to be with you today and excited to answer some of your questions. So thank you guys for being here.
Thanks for being here.
So we're going to just jump right in and ask some of the questions that you've asked to us. And as you know, we've been going through this series called Grace, #Unified Diversity. Mm-hmm. And it's just been a wonderful series to be able to go through. And we wanted to take a child's perspective and a parent's perspective as well, and kind of get their opinion. So they've been asking us questions, and I thought it would be super fitting to have our children's staff, or at least a couple of you guys, to be able to answer some of these questions that parents have. So no pressure, guys. No pressure.
Fine. Not at all.
All of the pressure.
But I'm going to be honest. Some of the questions that you guys have asked are not easy questions. So they are not getting softball questions today. They're getting real and raw questions that you guys have been wondering about. And so I'm going to dive right in and see what these guys have to say about this. So the first question is actually from a life group mom. And it says, I've had a hard time knowing when it's a good age to talk to my kids about the birds and the bees, about racism, about why God allows suffering. Pretty easy topics, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, totally easy.
That's fantastic.
Tons of great things.
So are these
Thanks for that question. Well done. Good job.
Yeah. So are these topics we should just wait until they ask questions about, or should we be proactive in starting the conversation? If your answer is yes, we should, I'm still curious about what age. So, who wants to take that one?
Yeah.
I'll go, and then you fix all the things I mess up on.
Absolutely.
So I'm currently parenting 3 kids, which is fun and exciting and an adventure. And all the things I thought I knew before I had kids about parenting, I then went, oh, I know none of the things. This is exciting. But I do know this. I know that kids, kind of before the age of 7, really live in a world that's very much just what they experience. It's part of why most kindergarten and first graders will steal our Connect 4 pieces all the time. They want to see, like, does the world keep going when I'm not there? And so if you have a kid who's much younger than kind of first grade, I'd say any kind of conversations about this, you want to speak directly to their experience and not try to go too global on it. But I would say that it's never too early to start the building blocks for conversations like this. So, sexuality, teaching kids God made their body. Like, you can literally do that in the bathtub at 2. Yeah. I'd say, as the kid starts pushing to preschool to kindergarten, start talking about specifically, like, some moms like have babies in their tummies, and some moms get their babies through adoption, and starting to talk through those things. My advice to parents is always, I'd rather you lead the way on those conversations than the playground. And so once your kid is in a school setting, their friends on the playground are all dummies. And you need to be the best voice in their life speaking to those things. But it's building blocks, right? It's, your body is special and God made it on purpose. So later you can talk about how it's used. God made you with the skin color you have. And he loves you all of the way. Like, as much as you can imagine, even more so God loves you and loves all of the people.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think I have to fix anything you said, because it was all awesome. So good job. But I want to focus on 2 things that you said. First, the racism thing, and then secondly, the point that you don't want to leave the conversation up to the playground, because I think that's an awesome statement. Yeah. Because I don't have any children, but pray for. Yes, I have children, because I see these guys, man. I have 2 sisters. One's 13, one is 6, and so. The conversations that my parents have with them now is, it's going to be different for the 6-year-old, but it's going to be different for the 13-year-old. But they still start the conversation on their level. Because here's the truth of the matter. Like, they're going to have those experiences where the conversation is started outside of the house. And so I think as soon as you can kind of get in their ear, talk to them, have them ask questions, create that dialogue is going to be important. Because I would rather you as the parent have the control over the conversation than someone out on the playground or someone at their school or one of their friends. So I think that's very important. Secondly, if I can just tackle the light subject of racism, I know for me, again, kind of speaking to talking on their level, talking, where they are as a child, and as they grow, kind of the conversation shifting. For me, when I was a young kid, it was little messages my mom would say to me like, you're no better than anyone else, and no one else is better than you. You are great. Words of affirmation. And so when I encountered racism or I encountered, issues, I still had that message playing in my mind. And it actually put me in the position to go back to my mom and say, hey, you told me all these things. Why are they calling me this? Or why am I having this experience? And so I would rather you start that conversation, and then that puts your child in the position to run back to you to ask questions, than you not have the conversation, that experience happens, and they run to something or someone else that won't be as loving or open or accepting.
And I'll just add, for the parent of a preteen or a teenager who's watching this, like, it's literally never too late to start these conversations. But don't do this thing. So I came to faith first in my family, and then my parents later. Like, I was about to graduate high school, and all of a sudden my parents loved Jesus and sat us down at the dinner table one day and said, well, we have to talk about the Bible now and treating people well, so here we go. And it was like, what is happening? Like, why right now? So don't go, well, kids, now we have to talk about these things. I'd say, with older kids, asking them, hey, what do you know about racism? Like, what, when you think of racism, what does it make you think of? So that you then give them the chance to speak into it. And more often than not, like, younger preteen age kids are going to go, I don't know. And then you have a door open to go from there. But always think building blocks. Does my kid know God made their body? Does my kid know that God loves everybody, all of the amount, right? Like, you can't divide the infinite. I'd say building blocks first.
Absolutely.
And then, generally they won't ask the questions, but you can look for windows, right? Look for windows of being able to speak into God made everybody the same.
No, that's so good.
That's good. Well, and with the building blocks, it invites the conversations to happen. Once, if somebody comes home and says, I cannot believe that this person said this, if your mom is already speaking life over you, and that doesn't mix with what that person spoke over you, they already have the foundation of no, I know that I'm not that. But I think that those conversations will come. They're going to come home from the schoolyard, and we have to be ready for those conversations.
I agree.
Very, very good. All right, so this next question comes from a life group dad.
Hey, life group dad.
What's up, life group dad? It says, my kids are all under the age of 10. They know that they have a different skin color from white kids, but that's as far as it goes at this point. I want them to grow up fully aware and appreciative of their history and upbringing without it causing their viewpoint to be distorted with racial bias towards people of other colors. Is there a good balance to strike, or does it have more to do with the way in which I share the information?
That's a very good question. And it's packed with a lot.
It is.
Thanks. I will take it this time. So first
Yep, thanks.
There's looking around.
There's a couple of different things there, and I'll kind of reference my experience as an African American growing up as well. First thing you mentioned was that they are aware that they have a different skin color, which is not a bad thing. It's not. I think growing up, I absolutely knew that my skin was darker than some of my friends, some of my white friends or my Latino friends or my Asian friends, but I didn't view it negatively. And so I guess my question for you also would be, they know that their skin is different, but are they portraying it in a negative way or a positive way? Because for me growing up, I absolutely knew my skin was different, but I also had those words of affirmation my mom and other family members spoke over my life, so I was able to view it in a positive way. I appreciated being African American. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was great. And I was able to kind of move forward when, prejudice or racist things happen there. But I think you bring up a question that a lot of parents of color are asking, because we are living in a time, this isn't anything new. Racism is not anything new. But we live in a time now where things are put on TV. They can access it on their phones. People are talking about it in their schools. And so it's, how do I navigate through this conversation with my kids? And I think the first thing I would say is, you are their parent, not their professor. And so I think sometimes we try to pour the history into their ears, and we want to tell them what happened, so long ago, or what's happening right now, and this is where we come from, and all of that is great. I do believe there is a time where we need to know our history, because that helps shape and define us and appreciate who we are as African Americans, right? But at the end of the day, it is your job as the parent to love on them and to affirm who they are and help them appreciate and love the skin that they're in. In addition, it is also, your responsibility to love them through those tough times, those experiences that they may encounter, whether it's racism or prejudice, whatever it is, right? But I don't want you to feel, Life Group Dad, that you have to have all of the answers and be the professor and teach them all of the things in regards to where we came from. You're not a textbook. You're their dad, right? And so being able to love on them in that way is good. And there's something else that you said that I wanted to speak to as well. Oh yes, good. So last thing, and I'll be done because I'm rambling here. But one of the things that helped me was absolutely the positive voices that I had in my life that helped me know who I am, love who I am as an African American male. Now, I will say I did not have a dad growing up. My dad died when I was 4. And so some of the voices of African American men that were in my life said messages like, you have to work twice as hard just to almost get what a white man gets. You're always fighting against, the man. You've heard that before. And so while I had the voice of my mother in my head of, you're great, your skin is beautiful, you're going to be an awesome black man, the voices of some of the black men in my life who I actually identify with more because they are who I'm going to look like in the future, are telling me these things. And so I think going back to the parenting piece as well, you really want to make sure that your life, what you do, how you move in your life, and how you respond to things as well, matches how you want your children to receive the things that happen in their lives too. And so making sure that you are a positive voice in their life, making sure that you are putting people around them who are going to love them and kind of validate who they are on the inside as well. Because that hurt a lot, hearing, you have to work twice as good to get almost as what they have. And so I think having those positive influences, voices, lives, a part of their life experience and their growth is just going to be extremely important.
When, I think it's kind of it's almost a balance of both, and the two perspectives of a realistic picture that you got from it, and maybe to an extreme, but then the voice that you got from your mom, which was an encouraging, affirming voice. But I firmly believe that we can't shield our parents, or as parents we can't shield our kids from this. We have to go in eyes wide open to the idea that racism does exist.
Yes.
It is something that is prevalent in our society that they're going to have to deal with, but at the same time reaffirming who they are.
Well, no, I agree. I mean, look, the truth of the matter is, even now, I'll be transparent. If I get stopped by a cop, I feel some kind of way about that. There is a sense of fear that is there, absolutely, due to my own personal experiences, but also the experiences that I have seen on television or heard about, or my friends have been through as well. But at the end of the day, I think as we kind of tackle racism, as we look at everything we've gone through in our history, how are we going to overcome this? I think we overcome this by acknowledging, yes, that there is racism, and acknowledging, yes, we've had this history, but it's also about understanding that if no one else appreciates who you are, you should. If no one else, outside of your house loves you, or loves the color of your skin, I should come home as a kid and my parents appreciate and love me. And so I think starting that there, mixed in with, teaching them about the history, yes, and what is going on out in the world is just going to be important. As a kid, I don't think anyone wants to come home and they're getting beat up in the world because of their race, but then it's also happening in their house too. Yeah. So having those words of love, affirmation, is going to be very important.
That's good. Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, just to add, I hear your words and I just go, like, I will never understand that experience. Like, I just won't. And naming that for my kids too, right? That, like, I will never know what it's like to be a young black man. My kids will never know what that looks or feels like. And so, parents, just understand, like, you can only know your experience, but you can talk about, what that, you can start talking about what would that feel like if you didn't feel like the police were there to be protectors, right? And so how do we then, those of us who just by birth, like, have privilege, like, how do we leverage that in such a way that we care for those who situationally don't? And part of why, our heart breaks at those things is we weren't created for a world that had inequality. Like, God created all of us equal, and it's because of sin that those things are now broken, and we yearn for a place where those things will be put back together again. Like, our hearts yearn for that, and that's heaven. And I feel like anytime I see something hard going on in the world, or pain, suffering, racism, it gives me a chance to talk about hope for my kids and talk about the heavens coming. Yeah. And how do we help this world we're living in now look and feel more like the world that is to come? And so, gosh, good job being a part of a church where we have these conversations. Good job being a part of a church where people do look different from each other. Yes. It was hard when I had to explain to my kids who go to the Durham campus that a young African-American guy that serves with them was going to be out for a couple months because he got shot.
Yeah.
What the what? But yet it gave us an opportunity to speak into that and cheer for him when he came back to us, and understand there are things about the black experience that I will never understand, but I can come alongside you and let my heart break with yours. And my kids hopefully can see their dad do that and see their parents do that and live into that. So good job being a part of a church that has conversations like this. Thank you for speaking into our kids' lives and being a positive role model that way. Thank you for leading life groups in a way that we can have these conversations. And just know that you're going to mess it up because that's parenting.
That's right.
But it doesn't mean you don't try.
Amen. Hey, you guys have been awesome. I really, really appreciate your feedback. It's been wonderful. Hey, join us next week for the last message in our series on grace. We're going through Ephesians. We'll see you next week.
See ya.